You are listening to the BlahCade Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Freebus, aka Shut Your Trap. Joining me as always, halfway across the world, in the Southern Hemisphere, down under, Jared Morgan.
Just finished drinking my coffee then. It was good. Actually, there's a little bit left. I might just knock that back.
I am so not a coffee person.
Oh, really?
Oh my God. It's hot water with flavor that I don't enjoy.
So milk.
Yeah, because I do enjoy the smell of coffee.
Yeah.
But that's just it. It never matches what smells isn't matching what my tongue tastes. So I don't mind I'll drink a Frappuccino. That to me tastes good because it's basically a milkshake with coffee in it.
Yeah, it's not coffee.
No,
that's the reason why you like it.
I met up with a friend of mine recently, and he was said, "Hey, let's go get coffee." I was like, "Okay, that's fine." And I was thinking, yeah, no problem. I'll just get a Frappuccino when we get. Well, he picked this place called Intelligentsia, and of course, it's they take their coffee seriously, and God forbid they had a blender in there to make a Frappuccino.
It would be like a swear word to them,
right? And so I was like, well, what am I going to have? And I kind of just said, because he goes, "Oh yeah, that's right, you don't drink coffee." I said, "Yeah." And I explained, what my reasoning there was. And so he's like, "Oh, you need a cappuccino." He's like, that's got milk in it, and that'll be fine. I'm like, "Okay, fine. Give me a cappuccino." I take one sip of it. I'm like, what is this foul, this bitter taste? That's just like, and I'm doing everything in my power not to scrunch up my face and look rude about it because he wound up buying it for me. And so I went and I got a sugar packet and I dumped the sugar packet in, and that helped a little bit, but not a lot of it.
Well, there you go. It's must be an acquired taste for you. For me,
well, you know what? I'm not a fan of bitter anyway. I mean, I don't like beer for the same reason. I hate the bitter taste.
Okay. Well, there you go. Each to their own. Have a tea.
No, because that's just more flavored water. I'll have a hot chocolate. That does me fine.
That's flavored water as well, except it tastes like chocolate.
But no, it's because it's got powdered milk in it, and that makes it a milky chocolate sensation.
Okay. I think your argument is flawed, but okay.
What do you mean my argument is flawed? What do you think is that powder is? It's not just chocolate, it's powdered milk.
Yeah, I know that is correct, but it leads back to saying, well, a cappuccino is not fine because it also has milk in it as well.
But no. See it's water with milk added to it, as opposed to the hot water blending with the dehydrated milk, thereby forming milk. Because milk does have naturally water in it.
Yes, and in most cases, just word to the wise people: if you're actually drinking milk in bottles from the supermarket, most likely, unless it's a very expensive brand, it's actually rehydrated milk anyhow from milk powder.
See, so drink your Ovaltine, kids.
Yeah, drink hot chocolate, like Uncle Chris says, because Uncle Chris knows.
Apparently, at Starbucks, they have this thing called the unicorn frappuccino.
It's so stupid,
right? And so my wife was like, I want to try it. And she's not a coffee drinker either, but she was just like, I got to try this thing. I'm like, okay, fine. So we go over. We're at Target, and they have a Starbucks built into it. And I walk over. Then I don't see any signage for it, so I'm thinking they don't have it. But this is how I asked if they had it. I go, "You got that abomination of a frappuccino, the unicorn thingy?"
And they went, "Yes, sir, we do."
No, they didn't. They didn't. They were like, "No, not at our location." I went, "Okay."
It's like that is very funny because that's exactly what it looks like. It's got some sort of the way I understand it, it actually changes color as you drink it, or something.
Yeah, and it's zero coffee in it. It's a mango based drink.
Yeah, not even coffee. No. It's just no. So it's really meant for kids. It's really meant to get the kids into Starbucks so they can start their journey to caffeine and indoctrination.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a gateway drug of coffee shops. Make a lurid drink that gets them in so they can actually see what it's like inside and go, oh, yes, this is a lifestyle for me.
Yes. And next thing you know, it's, Mommy, Daddy, might I have a laptop to write my screenplay on inside the Starbucks?
That's even slightly German, the kid. Yes, good Dolph, you can.
Speaking of drinks, just a friendly word to the wise out there that 7-Eleven will be having their Bring Your Own Cup Day coming up here.
In US states only.
Well, yeah. It's going to be on the I believe I think it's on the 19th and 20th. Hey, the 20th. That's where we're going to do our 100th episode. But yeah, 19th and 20th of May, if I'm not mistaken.
19th and 20th of May. There you go.
Yeah.
In all geographies where the dates are backwards. So
exactly. Which means the US.
Yeah, which means the US. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. Does Canada do theirs like the US? I think they might.
I think they probably would because they're close enough, but not quite.
Right.
So I think they probably would. A quick Google search could probably answer the question, but
who wants to do that?
Who wants to do that? Let's live in a world of ambiguity and unknown facts, like we did in the 80s.
I always said that the smartphone has killed all bar bets.
Yeah, absolutely.
And many a bar argument.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's
although I'm sure the bar argument then, if the person doesn't like what you show them, they just yell fake news, and that causes a whole new argument. But,
exactly. Yep. So I'm looking over the. Sorry, just launching the pinball here, but I'm looking over the.
What we talk about pinball here?
Yeah, apparently sometimes.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at the responses from the BlahCade AMA for Ask Homework. There's probably about 5 individual responses. Some of those have more than one question answered. So there's probably going to be around 10 or 15 questions total, I would think.
Great.
That we're going to send over to Zolt. So I'll actually compile these today and get these over to him, and then we'll get it ready for the big 100.
So all you that sent in your questions, all 5 of you, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for asking one or more questions.
Yes, we do appreciate the participation.
Yes.
Sometimes I get shocked when there's actually participation, on our Twitter feed. When people ask a question of us directly, and it's like, oh yeah, I guess I better respond to something of that.
Yeah, that's right. It does take us by surprise sometimes, doesn't it? Really, it's yeah.
You mean we're not just talking to ourselves? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, into the vacuum that is the podcast land.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, so you may have noticed these last couple of podcasts, we haven't really been talking terribly much about digital pinball, and I blame Farsight because they've been doing their month off. Now
we got no fodder.
Yeah, we have no fodder. That being said, they're moving away from that, obviously, because they are going to release a table at the end of the month. And the chatter at Farsight has basically been getting back to other things that are on their to-do list. But I did want to mention the beta head-to-head. We test it every Wednesday at about 11 a.m. Pacific time, and see what the new latest things are. But the cool thing is that all these changes that you've been reading about in the newsletter that they've been doing to tables, those are implemented in this beta. So we're able to actually kind of sample them and test them out. And hold on, we'll wait for that airplane that's passing over Jerry's living room.
Anyone would think I'd be like below an airport at the moment. I've got the way the studio North Lakes works is I have my bedroom. I'm actually set up on the bed with the laptop on my lap as it's designed to be used. And then I have a window open to let some airflow in. Now, unfortunately, this end of the house has a water pump to feed our tank, and we also have planes flying over. So you'll get some what we like to call environmental effects in the podcast. And that's part of the service we provide you here at BlahCade.
A little Foley work.
The Foley work, that's right. Just to make, because who knows? Really, I'm actually recording in a bunker in China, but I have to make it sound like I'm actually recording in Australia in suburban. In
that case, let me. You are listening to the BlahCade Podcast. I'm your host, Shut Your Trap, aka Chris Freebus. Joining me as always from North Korea, Jared Morgan.
That's right.
Behind the DMZ line.
No, just in it, because I could get internet there.
You can get, for the half an hour they turn it on.
That's right.
So what I was saying is we've been actually able to sample some of these tables. I've talked about Creature a little bit and Circus Voltaire. Well, the update that they did to Twilight Zone got implemented.
Oh, what do you think?
Well, it was funny because as we're doing the beta, we have our headsets on, so we can talk and kind of stuff. And Pinball Wiz 45B was on there, and he was playing Twilight Zone. And all I'm hearing from him is like, "Oh, it's so fast! Oh man, I can't believe how much more difficult this is. This is great. I love this."
Yeah, exactly.
He was freaking out over Twilight Zone. So of course I was like, "Well, I better check it out." And I put on Twilight Zone, and it definitely moves faster, and it's not so floaty. And the right ramp likes to send the ball right back down. The only thing I did not care for, so the kick out from the slot machine, much harder or much faster kick out that it's doing. If you have the flipper held up to bounce it, right? It literally bounces from the flipper all the way up to the mid flipper. And then you can shoot with the mid flipper.
Well,
that does not on the right.
Oh.
So it bounces from the right flipper, the lower right flipper, bounces all the way up into an arc to show that if you time it, you can hit the flipper again, and it'll hit the mid flipper on the upper right, and basically send you into the sound square or the camera, depending. But I don't believe any of the Twilight Zones I've ever played, the bounce has been that high. If at most the bounce does a little arc and threatens to go either back in the in lane or out the out lane.
Yeah, that's what usually happens with it.
Yeah.
It's dangerous, actually. It's actually dangerous to have the flipper held up when the slot machine fires. You're better off just dead passing it to the left.
You should be a dead pass to the left, but like I said, that was one of those things where I was like, not too happy about that change or whatever. But I did notice with Black Knight, they adjusted the back glass or did some other picture of the back glass. I'm not sure what. The only issue is it looks like a nuclear bomb went off behind it because it's completely blown out.
Oh, okay. So they need to tweak the DX11 lighting on it?
They need to tweak the lighting, absolutely. You know what? It's a trend that is, I notice all the time with Farsight, that they make their table lighting way too hot. And you have to turn it almost practically, down to 20%, 15%, in order for it not to be just blown out. And I wish they would make it. I don't know if they're trying to prevent the table from going pitch black, and that's the issue, or what it is. But when you have it at 50%, that should be almost starting to blow out, but not blowing out. So that if you really wanted that hot look, then you can crank it up to 70% or something like that. But I can't imagine anybody actually doing that.
No.
Because I'm constantly, the first time I load up a game, the first thing I do is I turn down the lighting from 50% down to 20%. And there's still a couple of tables that it's still too bright for me with the lighting. So I don't know, one of those things but I've noticed that with some of their back glasses that they've redone, that it's just like, whoa, hey, let's crank down the contrast on that,
Let's drop the nuke.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. So Black Knight, have you noticed any tuning changes in Black Knight?
God, no, I'm not playing that table until I actually have confirmation that they've done emulation, which they have not. So I'm not touching it.
So nope. So they may have actually tweaked the tuning, but you don't care. It's dead to you until they actually do that.
That's right. There is no Black Knight until such time as there's emulation. For the same reason, I pretty much don't play Gorgar.
Oh yeah, I like to play Gorgar.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be better if it was emulated.
Then there's I mean, regards to anything else that Farsight's got going on, no, it's still pretty quiet. So there's not much to report on the digital front. As usual, we haven't heard anything from Zen other than that hint that we'd gotten a little while ago from one of their developers, right? Wasn't it that they were like, I'm super excited for what they were doing?
And that's it. Yeah, we haven't heard any more news about what's going on there.
No,
we're running a sale for May the 4th. I did note.
Okay.
For all of their Star Wars tables, they had 50% off them, which I think might still be running. So if you get onto the podcast and listen quickly to it, you may very well be in for a surprise if you haven't yet bought all the Star Wars tables.
Right.
So yeah, I like it how they do it because it just lets new adopters get on there and like get the full set of tables and not have to worry about cost too much, which is great.
Yeah,
it's good. But yeah, that's really all the news digitally we have. There's not even. I did notice something the other day which was interesting. Arcuda has been a little bit quiet of late.
I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, so Arcuda has been a bit quiet of late. What they're doing now is every Thursday Australian time, they are releasing a what's happening at Arcuda video on their YouTube. And the first one was just an introductory video. It didn't really have a huge amount of content and more sort of pitching what the series is going to be about. But I think the second one's going to be interesting because we while we're in a commercial arrangement with them, we haven't really received a lot of insider information from them. So it'll be interesting to see what they're going to publicly talk about the platforms. And I don't think it's just going to be the pinball platform. It's going to be all of the other Arcuda game platforms that they have.
Right.
So yeah, let's see what they got up the sleeve. It's good that they're actually broadcasting it. I like that. Getting the information out there.
Information. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
So I should mention today, although by the time you listen to this podcast, folks, it'll have passed and you'll have to wait a whole another year for it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say it's a National Scrapbook Day. My wife has been at her scrapbook table all day. But it's also Free Comic Book Day. I don't know if they do that in the over there in Australia for you guys, but in the U.S., all across the nation, Free Comic Book Day. You go into your comic book store, and they have free comics that you can grab. So every year,
I don't think they do it.
Yeah, so every year I take my son over to the comic book store, and he goes and grabs his 5 free comic books that they let him have, and that's our comic book buying for the year.
Never goes back there again.
Nope. Well, you know what? He doesn't like superheroes, so comic book store doesn't really, it's not really anything interesting to him. So he's picking up like Simpsons comics and SpongeBob comics and things like that back in my day would have been the equivalent of picking up the Donald Duck comic book as opposed to the good comic books. That's
right. Yeah. So that's why they're free, basically.
No, they actually have like Walking Dead comics, and there's a whole bunch of DC and Marvel comics that they have, but they're specifically put out for free comic book day. So a lot of times it will be
like an abridged version of it or something.
Or like for instance, they had a Guardians of the Galaxy comic, and it's more for, hey, coincidence of timing, that movie just came out this weekend, and maybe your kid's interested, and here's kind of an introduction to it, so that it's a gateway.
Get them hooked. Yeah. It's totally a gateway. It's an acquisition strategy for comic book stores.
Exactly. Not to mention it makes you aware of where your comic book store is, and gets your butt in there, because as of course you're in there, you start looking around and going, ooh, that looks kind of cool, and ooh, that looks kind of cool, because I love all the figurines that they tend to have. Yeah. I've never afforded one of those figurines, but they're pretty cool.
No, they are mostly expensive. So yes, it's cool. Like if you haven't been to a comic book store, it's another universe inside there. Like it's there's a smell, because it's all like the printed paper smell in there. is something else when you go in there, and it's got this sort of a strange vibe inside it. Well, at least the ones here do. Funny places, not like your regular bookstore.
No, and it's fun. Also, I just pointed one out to my son. I was looking through the glass cabinet, and they had an X-Men comic in there, and I went, "Hey, Mace, look at that! That one costs $100." He was like, $100 for a comic? I was like, go figure, right?
Yeah, it's nuts. And yeah, the whole comic books as investment thing.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's that's a whole other story altogether, really.
Yeah.
But
that and your
it's one of
baseball
those
card
things.
traders, which interestingly enough, the two don't tend to mix, but they kind of deal in the same area existence. Paper grading and sealing your books up, and all that jazz.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? One of those things about collecting a thing is that the only way it's valuable is if there's still a market for it. For example, I've got these over here in Australia. Back when I was younger, our phone booths accepted these cards. They were called phone cards, and they were preloaded with value. They started off as being these sort of magnetic stripe cards, and then graduated up to more sort of credit card style cards. And they all had different pictures on them. So, of course, pictures equals collectability.
Yeah.
And I was pretty into it. I used to go around all the local phone booths and do the old, this will make no sense for people listening, but do the old, because they had these two holes.
Okay.
And these two holes where you put the used phone cards, and if there were any in there, you could just feel them underneath it, and then you just reach and clean them out.
Okay.
And, there used to be a philatelier dealer around the corner with stamp dealer, and philatelier. I always get the emphasis on the wrong syllable when I say that word. And he used to buy the cards off us as well, and sort of give us a bit of pocket money. So it was kind of good. Got quite a collection of them. I was thinking, what am I going to do with these? Because for that very reason, if the people who used to collect them are no longer around, then they're valueless, basically.
Right.
So I need to get rid of them, but I'm not sure how to actually offload these and even get something for them, because I don't really want to keep them. They have no sentimental value to me. So if
a lot of times it's all about timing. When you go to drop these things, my friend of mine, it's amazing his nose for what is collectible and what isn't. The things that he'll get into, and then 10, 15 years later, is exceedingly valuable. And most of it's in tabletop gaming and just kind of gaming in general. He would go after these obscure titles that might be sold in your toy store or whatever, plus then the tabletop gaming. And oftentimes he would never get around to opening it up. And then all of a sudden, 15 years later, there's this huge market for it because all this stuff is completely rare. And because he's got it still on the tree, it just exponentially becomes even more valuable. And I'm like, how is it that you keep on buying this stuff that has that has this value? He's like, I don't know, I just have a nose for it. But it even extended to, he called me up because years ago he lent me his Wii and never bothered to take it back. Okay. and he gave me a bunch of games, and he calls me up and he goes, hey, do you have this one, I want to say it's Fire Emblem, but I'm not sure, but anyway, it was this one RPG game. And I look through the thing, and I go, yeah, that was one of the ones you gave me. He's like, awesome. He goes, people are going nuts for it right now on eBay. And it was this weird circumstances of, it was a very limited run, and it wasn't popular in the States and all this stuff. All of a sudden he's got this game that's worth, $300.
What?
Right?
That's insane.
It's, like I said, he just has this knack for picking, these obscure things that all of a sudden gain value. But
I see our long-time show listener, Andrew Driver, is quite into cartridge-based or retro gaming. And I'll see some things that he's retweeted through about cartridges and stuff that have fetched an insane amount of money on eBay. And this is like a cartridge that probably would have been, $50 when it came out. $300 now. Just insane. It's crazy. And these things were, the cartridges, as we all know, being the age that we are, like they weren't really designed to hang around. They were kind of throwaway items, really, weren't they? They had a limited lifespan, just like any piece of consumer electronics. And for them to still be working today, I think is the thing that actually makes them rare.
You know what I love is that with the cartridge, anybody that was a cartridge gamer, they knew that if the cartridge didn't work, what did you do? You blew on it.
Blow it, which is even worse.
Well, but that's the funny thing. Everybody always says that's not a thing. It doesn't make the cartridge work. I'm like, if it doesn't make the cartridge work, then how come it always worked?
Yeah. Well, I think it could be that there's a little bit of, it could be dry, and the contact that, as you've well seen with pinball stuff, there could be things like, like the constant in and out of the cartridge might have put like a little bit of a nick in one of the contacts. So putting a little bit of moisture on there from your breath.
See, I think that's why they're saying don't blow on it, because they're afraid that you're going to spit on it, basically, and that's going to cause the problem. But I bet if you just took a regular can of air, they'd be like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But I think, the whole blow on the cartridge thing always used to be a thing. Like it was proper. And you're right,
it was universally accepted as something that works. So
yeah, it's like, oh yeah, a bit of dust, just give it a bit of a blow and you'll be fine.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you know for all too well that these electrical components aren't designed to work for a long time, as you've seen on your pinball machine. So
yeah, let's talk about the hell that well, I shouldn't say hell, but some of the fun that I had this week. So
yeah, let's do that.
It started off with 8-Ball Deluxe. I was trying to get the cabinet knocker to work. Mm-hmm. So in my junk that I'd gotten from Pinball Resources, I happened to also get the coil for the knocker. So I was like, great. So desoldered, attached the solder back on, my first soldering job, and I was like, woohoo! Put it on, turn the machine on, nothing. I was like,
oh no.
What happened? Why is this not working? So on the pin side I go, and it's amazing how little time I'd spent on pin side in the past 3 years, and suddenly I'm like on there all the time.
You're making up for it now.
I'm making up for it now. But anyway, so go on there, and I get a link to this site that basically is all about working on old Bally machines and troubleshooting, and I look at coil not working, and it gives me the rundown of where to look in my schematics, which is like, thank you, because I have no clue how to read an electrical schematic. And it chased down and basically it told me, look here at, and we'll see what you got. So it turns out that one of my transformers and resistors were cooked and blown out. So I was like, okay, I gotta go replace those. So off to Radio Shack, which I was crossing my fingers was still open and hadn't completely shut down. And sure enough, I made it. They still had 6 days left. And into their little resistor and diode bin I went, and I found the correct transistor and I found the correct resistor, and they were 90% off. Yeah.
Oh, that's cheap.
So I bought $10 worth of that stuff and only paid $1.
That's real good.
I wished that I had known what other components of that nature, what the numbers were that I needed, because I would have just bought a whole bunch. But
yeah, for that price, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but I didn't, and the store's closed now. So, so anyway, back home I pulled the board and I took soldering iron to the board and melted the solder, pulled off the transistor, pulled off the resistor, and then went, okay, time to put in the new one. And that's where my first mistake was. Because I didn't understand that you need to take off the old solder first.
Yes.
Yeah,
you do.
So all I did was I heated up the old solder and then pushed through the transistor. And then then the old solder cooled around it, and I went, okay. And then I added a little more solder on top of that and figured that'll work. And
good. Job's done.
Job's done. And then I did the same thing to the resistor, and I it was like, okay, let's just check this bad boy out. And I flick the switch on the machine, and I hear the knocker go, bam! And it's still buzzing. And so it was locked on. Yeah, so it was locked in. I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, turn it off.
Yeah, turn it off. I'm like, well, obviously I the coil works, and I figured that my soldering job was fine because it made the thing function. So I went back to this troubleshooting guide, and it's saying, if your coil is locked on, it might be also this diode, and it might be, and so it becomes this, and it might be the chip that controls all the transistors. I'm like, oh my gosh, really? I got to figure all this out. What am I going to do? And I kept on saying that you need to check the voltage. You need to check the voltage. You need to check the voltage.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, maybe I need to go finally buy my own voltage meter, my multimeter. So over to Harbor Freight I go, and paid the wee bit of money that they were asking for those. Came back home, checked the transistor. I'm not getting any voltage at all out of it. I went, okay, maybe my soldering job ain't so swift.
Yeah.
So I took the board over to my neighbor who knows a thing or two about soldering and electronics. And he kind of goes, well, yeah, your problem is you got all this old solder on there. It's like, okay. So he gives me this little device that sucks up solder, which is kind of cool. Sucked up the old solder.
Solder vacuums are cool.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of them floating around here.
Sucked up the old solder, and come to find out that the circuit ribbons had delaminated and were kind of pointing in weird, funky directions. So that was... Yeah, so the transformer was not exactly making a connection. So he did a soldering job for me, thankfully, to kind of flatten them out and get them touching where they're supposed to be touching properly. And then we plugged it back in, and ta-da! My cabinet knocker works again.
Yay!
Which is fun because now whenever I get a match game, it scares the living daylights out of me because, man, those Williams knocker, actually Bally knocker, are loud.
Yeah. Because it's actually smacking onto a metal plate, isn't it?
Yep.
Inside the black box, yeah. So it's super loud.
Yeah. No, which is excuse me, drop something. Which is a good thing. I like that being scared kind of by the knocker. And it's a much more pleasing sound than Stern's.
Oh yeah, that thing. I don't know why they chose to do that. It's such an annoying noise. Yeah. They could have just put an extra solenoid in there and just let it do its thing.
So that was what I did with 8-Ball Deluxe this week. The other thing that I did this week was I didn't do what? I did indeed clear coat firepower.
Yay!
So if you've followed us on Twitter, you've seen the pictures. If you're on Pinside and are a follower of Vid's table restoration guide, you've seen the pictures. And I don't have that many people actually following my firepower thread, which is entitled Firepower, My First Pin, My First Teardown. If you want to jump on that, that shows all the steps that I've been taking, old and new. But anyway, I'll just recount real quickly what the deal was. So went ahead, set up the tent outside, set up the play field, and went and did my first spray down. And while I'm spraying, I noticed that in the middle of the playfield where all the paint had been basically jacked up, it looked like it was bubbling. I was like, ooh, what's going on there? And I was like, isn't it supposed to level out? I'm not sure, what the issue is. So I sprayed the rest of the table, stepped back, let it cure for 20 minutes, went back, because in my head, I keep on hearing that guy, Tim, from our pinball league, where he said, if it doesn't look good the first time, just spray another coat, see what happens. I was like, okay, come on, second coat, let's see what happens. So I went and sprayed another coat, and although it did level it out somewhat, if you looked at it from overhead, it still looked like just a bubbling mess.
Yeah.
So I took photos, posted those on Pinside, went, okay, what's my next step? To which I was told, yeah, it looks like somebody had waxed the playfield with a silicone-based wax, and it's fisheyeing. Which I can say now, after the fact, that's not the case. And I'll explain that in a second. But so the answer was go ahead and get out your sandpaper and flatten that back out. So I did. I got out my 400 grit sandpaper and wet sanded and scrubbed the ever living crap out of that area until it was flat again. And it was at that point what I noticed was it's all these little tiny divots in the playfield, whether it was from where the paint chunked up or what it more likely looked was where the ball had bounced. And the reason why the ball was bouncing was because when I first got this table, the paint job was so rough and bumpy on the inserts. Some of them were raised, some of them were sunk. Basically, the ball was hopping all the time. And I believe causing these little dents and divots all over the place. I joked that it looked like Edward James Olmos's face, and now I need to try and smooth that out. So what Vid wound up saying, and he says this is a big misconception with clear coating, is that everybody thinks that clear coat is just going to fill in the gaps. And that's not the case at all. Because of its surface tension, it actually surrounds the gap and makes a ring. And further makes the divot even deeper, if you will. So what I had to do was sand as flat as I could, and then it was going to be get an eyedropper full of the clear coat and just individually fill each and every single hole. Well, there was 100 plus of these on the playfield. So whipped up a little tiny batch of clear coat, which was still way too much clear coat, but I mean, I literally filled the bottom line that was on my cup. And from that, I then removed just a little bit to fill up the eyedropper, and the eyedropper in total, I only used 3/4 of it was even in that. So, turns out clear coat goes a long way. So I went and I filled in all the little divots, and then Vid also suggested that fill in the valleys around all of the inserts so that everything is just perfectly smooth. I'm like, okay. So I did all that. Well, I kind of went a little heavy. So now all of a sudden when it cured, there was all these little cobblestones.
Mountains.
Little cobblestones, if you will, all over the place. So I was like, okay, well, back to the 400 grit. Let's knock it down. It was not knocking them down at all. And I don't know if it was just because I use a rubber block sander. And I don't know if it was just riding on top of all the bumps, and therefore it couldn't get a grip and knock anything off. But I was getting nowhere and nowhere fast. So that happened to be my last piece of 400 grit paper, and I burned through it really quick. And I kind of went, well, I don't know, what else do I got? And I found I had some 240 grit paper. I went, maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe I need to go a little severe and knock it down that way. So I started up at the top of the playfield and roughed it up. And this is a non-wet, it's just dry sanding. And man, it just creates this white powdery mess all over the place. And I real quickly went, thank you, Tim, for recommending that I pull all the wiring harness off the bottom of the playfield, because this is exactly what he was warning about, because that powder gets everywhere. I don't care how good you sealed up that table. It was going to get somewhere and just make a mess. So I started sanding that. Next thing you know, I'm sanding the entire playfield. I'm knocking everything down. And I just kept on going and kept on going and kept on going. Eventually, it got to the point where I'd gone through the clear on certain areas that were over the inserts, and I was sanding the inserts back down, because if I'd look on the bottom of the pad, it was picking up the color from the orange inserts in the middle. And I was like, wow, I had no idea how raised any of that was. But I was like, just keep on going, just sand. And so I sanded that until it was very smooth, as far as I could tell. It's a giant cloudy mess now. Even after wiping it down, what's interesting is when you wipe it down wet, which is what the clear is going to do, it looks great. So it's interesting how clear works. It'll take even the grimiest looking thing and all of a sudden make it look beautiful. I did go buy some 400 and 600 grit paper. I'm going to do a little bit of a polish so that the inserts don't show any scrape lines.
Yeah, good idea.
But yeah, so I went from having, if you go and look on our Twitter feed, the BlahCade feed, I believe, is where I posted those photos, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, you'll see the table go from kind of whatever, okay, to being really nice and glossy, shiny, to being a cloudy mess.
Yeah.
But the good news is, like I said, it's now flat as flat can be because I took the pinball and I had the playfield at just an ever so slight rake, so that if I put the pinball down, it would just slowly start rolling. It didn't matter what insert it rolled over, what dent looked like it was there. It never changed directions, and that was going as slow.
Really good.
So I was like, "Hey, that's all you can ask for. That's what we're looking for."
Yeah, that's real good. So with sanding on the threads, on the restoration threads, is it always block sanding, like a manual sanding, or would you use a mouse sander?
Like an orbital sander or something?
Yeah, or like those vibration sanders.
No, everybody says do it by hand, because the problem with any of the orbital sanders or whatever, if you so much as angle it, it might gouge really fast.
Yeah, you get it
faster than your hand would ever do. What I was doing was and what I was doing was I was only sanding in one direction. So I didn't want to create any swirls. So I was just going back and forth lengthwise on the playfield, and sometimes I would go up on edge on the sanding block just to try and push down a little harder and kind of, again, get in between the bumps so that I'd catch an edge and knock that bump down. Then when you go the other direction, you knock the other bump down, and then finally go flat on it and be able to get it all nice and smooth that way. Now that the table is completely smooth, I should never have to go up on edge again. I should always be able to do the flat. We'll see. What's interesting is that that initial spraying that I did, I apparently went way heavy. I mean, Vid was able to see it just in the pictures. He was like, "Yeah, you need to shoot like an eighth of what you shot." So we'll see how I do this next time that I actually do clear coating. It's not going to be until after I start doing some painting, but I'm trying to debate if it's I had the gun too low, was I going too slow, do I need to just go do a faster pass? I think I need to watch some videos on YouTube and kind of get an idea of where they're holding it and how fast they're moving.
Yeah, but it sounds like it.
But yeah, it's interesting. Even after all this sanding, you might say that I should have done this before clear coating, but I would have been taking off paint. The beautiful thing is I didn't take off a lick of paint. All I took off was the inserts. Some of the height on the inserts.
Yeah. So I think you're probably in a good place now where you can actually now go and paint over the top of the clear, and the clear is rough enough that you'll be able to layer, put paint down.
Yes.
Because it should adhere.
Yeah.
So it's basically from what I understand, anyone who has a damaged playfield does anyhow. They lock it in, and then they start touching it up because it's so easy to just take off the paint that way.
Yeah.
And I think in some cases, some people will actually do like one color and then clear it, and then another color and then clear it, because it allows them to be really precise with all the colors.
Yeah. I think they're doing a very thin coat of clear when they do that, because Vid posted a pic of what happens when you don't do it that way, when you have too thick of a clear, and you can see the step in.
It looks like 3D.
Yeah.
It's sort of like layered.
Exactly.
That would be weird.
That would be weird. That would be weird.
But yeah.
So we'll see what happens on Tuesday. So the day this podcast drops, going over to when I say my buddy, my friend, I'm always talking about the same guy. He's got all the gizmos and toys. He's the one that's going to be cutting me the clear plastics for 8-Ball Deluxe. He's also got a airbrush station totally set up. Again, when you're into tabletop gaming, you do a lot of
all the gear.
You do a lot of painting, and so he kind of assembly lines a lot of it. And uses his airbrush a lot. So I'll be using his airbrush. So, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, great, you've already got set up. You know how to do this. You can teach me how to do it properly. And I can go from there. So I'm hoping that I'll do some of that on Tuesday too. And we'll see how much, who knows, maybe I can goad him into doing most of the painting for me.
I wonder how much you're going to have to pay him for that.
Usually nothing, but it's one of those things, Sometimes if you leave something behind with somebody that is into that kind of thing, they might just take it upon themselves to do it.
Yeah. Just color match everything for you and touch it up. And
exactly, because he's into detail work.
He probably love it.
So I'm like, maybe he can be the one that paints the planet in the areas that it needs painting.
Good luck with that.
I can spray white, I can spray black, and I can spray red. But when it comes to actually kind of mixing colors to match and do these little intricate little things, I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen some of the restoration work that people have done on their other planets from the links you've been flicking me, and I've got to say they're pretty insane.
Yeah.
Like these people have just how do you? Wow, you've managed to do it, and I can't even see where you've done the fix.
Right,
like it's amazing.
It is.
So they've got a real eye for it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun going through these threads because once you start posting a thread on what you're doing, other people start commenting and going, "Oh, hey, look at my thread!" And I've got the same machine. Look at what I'm doing. And you start looking at some of these things, and you just go, "It can be depressing." Let's just put it that way. Yeah. I saw a guy's thread on. Now I can't remember. It's either 8-Ball Deluxe or Firepower, but anyway, he was redoing the cabinet, and it was gorgeous. I mean, this guy completely rebuilt. I mean, every single corner was just true and square, and it was painted gorgeously inside. And he even found the original warning stickers for voltage, to apply back in, and all of his metal plates are just super shiny, which is what I love. I hate dull metal, which is of course what they threw in all these machines. Yes. I mean, I'm the kind of person that I would chrome everything. Yes. I would love to flip open a table and just be chrome. I think that would be incredible. Yeah. So you see that kind of stuff, and that's where I think that's what intimidated me the first time. Yeah. Where I thought that, if you're going to be a pinball machine owner, you have to do all of X, Y, and Z. And it wasn't until I started going over to people's houses in League where it was like, no, you don't have to do that. Just have a table that plays well.
Yeah.
There's different kinds of
place conditioned tables are just fine to own.
Yeah. There's different collectors. There's, because one of these guys' houses that we'd go over to, he had this great collection of tables, probably 16 or 17 machines. And they were all these tables that I love. I was just like, oh, that's awesome. And there was not a single one of them that was in restoration quality.
Condition, yeah.
Right. These were all like what you would see in the arcade. They just happened to all play well. I mean, they all worked. The flippers all worked, and there was no bad switches or anything else like that. They just didn't look all that pretty.
Yeah.
And then you go over to other guys' houses, and every single one of them is, a mirror shine and LED'd out, and all that stuff. So it is kind of one of those things where it's like it's perfectly acceptable to have a player quality machine and just enjoy the hell out of it.
It's exactly the same as those folks who own cars. Some people love to have a completely and utterly tricked out car, but some people, they just want to drive it and they don't care. So player's condition, I think they call it in pinball. You can play and it's great, and it may not look super swift, but it reflects the age of the table, and that's fine.
So speaking of this, there was kind of I posted a Craigslist ad specifically for Jared, because Jared is always complaining that even the crappiest of machines would cost him an arm and a leg in Australia. Yeah. And so I found a table that was in the crappiest of conditions, and it was for a Baracora pinball, which I've never heard of that. It was from 1981. It's a Williams machine. This would be pre-Firepower, no speech on this particular machine. So pre-Firepower, pre-Gorgar. Well, I believe that'd be a System 3 or 4, I think. Yeah. And the person was asking $50 for it. Said that it electronics worked. Didn't say that the pinball machine actually worked, but they said the electronics worked. So I'm assuming
it was pictured with lights on. So that's something.
So that's something.
At least the transformer's not fried. That's good.
Right. That being said, The cabinet was completely stripped of any and all art. There was no back glass. There was just a photo or like a picture of the back glass of this is Williams' attempt at doing an H.R. Giger painting, apparently.
No.
And all that was left was just this image of the woman's face, and there was nothing else on the back glass at all.
Yeah. You could see right back through to the light board in the back. It was completely clear.
And then, well, they taped off where the scoreboard is using blue painter's tape.
Yep.
And then there was a picture of the playfield, but it was hard to tell what condition it was in because the glass was just covered in dust.
Yeah.
So I was like, for a hot second, I was like, $50 for a table that works. Why not? But then it's an hour and a half drive to even look at this thing. And what I did real quickly, I did a Google search, went to Internet Pinball Database, looked up the game, found out information about it. And then I went on to eBay and Pinside, and there ain't nobody talking about this machine. And there's not a back glass around, and I didn't see stencil kits or anything else like that. I was like, oh, if you're going to do any attempt at restoring this, you're going to have issues. Good luck finding parts. Good luck finding anything, that'll.
I think you'll be able to find most of the electrical parts for it, like all the mechanical parts. Will be
right, fine. But all the artwork, good luck.
The artwork, no. I think the only thing you could probably do is print out, get like a back glass 1-to-1 printed down at your local office works, and then just whack it in the glass, and that's your back glass.
Yeah, I did. The only thing I found on eBay was a couple of people were selling the plastics, so those were available, and the bumper caps were available.
That's all you need.
That's all you need, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
So in the time, though, it took me to look at this ad and do the little research and then post it, or get ready to post it to Twitter, it had already been yanked down, which means which means they'd sold the thing. And I thought
for $50, why not?
Well, yeah, and that's what I thought. I was like, for $50, you could probably part it out for way more money. But again, I was just like, I wouldn't want to do that to myself. A, I don't want to deal with eBay and parting out something. And B, if I had a machine, I want to play the machine, but I've never even heard of this machine. And it was just like...
I think I've seen Barracuda a couple of times go through TNT Amusement's YouTube channel. It's very indicative of the era of the table, so it's not a really complex table, but it flips well. As like most of those tables of the era, they tend to play... They're brutal and they play well because they're simple. They're just a single level play field, and they just do what they do. Lots of drops. I think it has lots of drop targets on it.
It had drops, yeah.
It has like an inline drop.
It had drops and a horseshoe, and it had multi-ball. That's basically all it had.
That's pretty good.
For it.
Yeah. Someone would have definitely got that for parts, I reckon. They would have parted that out for sure.
So it's one of those things that I have, if it was, a couple of miles from me, then I probably on a whim would have been like, sure, let me go look, impulse buy kind of thing. But if it's a 90-minute drive out to the thing, the impulse quickly abates and logic starts coming back in, reality. So
absolutely. Yeah, that's a fair drive for something that may not even be working. Yeah, that's like me driving down to the Gold Coast here,
right?
And that's non-trivial at all. So I totally get your thoughts.
Well, and especially since this is what I'm going through right now with my firepower, it was literally one of those things where the day I got the money, and the money was given to me by my in-laws, and it was with the express instructions, you have to buy something fun with it. I went, what am I going to buy fun with? And I went on Craigslist, and boom, there was a firepower for $500, which is exactly what the money was that I had.
You went, okay, I'm doing this.
I called. They said, come down. If you're not down here within the next 2 hours, somebody else is going to be here and buy it. So it was like, well, there was no time to think.
Yeah,
and it wasn't right. And it wasn't until after I'd handed the cash off to the guy, and we're walking outside, and the sunlight hits the playfield, that I went, oh.
Instant regret.
Right? That's when the buyer's remorse starts setting in. So knowing everything that I'm going through with just restoring firepower to a playable state, I can imagine what an absolute project would be. And I don't want to get into that kind of a nightmare. That would be nope.
I saw, as I was like, you get onto Pinside and you go down the rabbit hole and links.
Yeah.
And I happened to come across this guy who was doing a restore on an EM, and it was very interesting to see how he zoned things off when he was doing it. Of course, EMs, their artwork is generally pretty basic, and they have lots of block colors on the playfield. So he was able to go, look, when I'm on a playfield that's got a lot of paint damage, I actually just find a paint that matches the paint mostly, and then repaint the entire playfield in that color. So it's like, yep, that is a color that's going to be replacing all of that color, and that's just how it is. And look, it's not completely authentic, but it's close and it's consistent and it looks good at the end. And that's really all you want when you're actually doing something like that, really. Unless you're an absolute purist and you're going, oh, no, I have to have the absolute right Pantone.
Yeah, but where are you going to find that Pantone? You know, I mean, it's not like it's listed on any of Gottlieb's or Williams' site what Pantone they used, and any machine you find is probably going to be faded a little bit. At some point, nobody's going to have a new inbox EM. So
even if you took the playfield down and got the paint spectrally analyzed at your local, paint shop, you're going to have at least some inconsistency anyhow.
Yeah.
So don't sweat the details. Put something on that looks good and get on with the job. And I'll tell you what, it looked really good when he'd done it. And he'd repainted everything, and he actually sprayed, airbrushed a lot of the big areas and masked off the ones that didn't. And it seems to be, when he was talking about it, there seemed to be a real technique in actually masking and doing that right. So I found it very interesting, but at the same time I thought, if I could actually find something, a real bombed out, even playfield down here that would just junk to bits, I could just have a go at it.
You could.
And just have a go at touching it up and see how it went, just to see what the end result could be. And I don't know if I could get to the point where it was cleared, but I could at least try and touch up the paint and see what it looked like, And,
I'm sure you could find a fairly cheap, junked up playfield on eBay and have it shipped to you, and it wouldn't be terrible shipping.
I actually think I probably know someone that the same guy who sells pinball machines for $1,500.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure his wife is actually involved in the business as well, and she does a lot of playfield touch up. And I know that the guy sort of makes available to her a lot of playfields that are well and truly past, really bad.
Right.
And she'll just practice her technique on those playfields and touch them up. So it's possible that if I wanted to, I might just get in touch and see what playfields he might have and how much she'd be interested in getting rid of them for. Because if anything, they might turn into nice art pieces.
Mm-hmm. A lot of guys do that.
Yeah, use them as posters, basically.
Yep.
So I don't know. I may sort of send the guy an email and see what's around. And I might also send an email and say, look, here is what I have, money-wise.
Right.
What would you recommend me buying one of the ones that you've got now based on that, and see what he actually says? Because this guy is, while he's in the business of selling tables, he's not one of those snaky salespeople. He'll tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So
I think
maybe
it'd be worth at least letting him know, and one of those situations where sometimes they feel that tear in their heart, and they're like, I want to help this person out.
I want to be the gateway drug of this guy, so he can actually
feed their addiction.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I may entertain the idea, but you're certainly right. Going through Gumtree over here in eBay it's not where you go and get the good deals. No. This guy, although he actually has he sells them, at the same time they are degrees cheaper than all the other ones on eBay, and because he actually fixes them up and guarantees they work to start with, then that's a big problem. Taken away. He'll actually get to the point where everything is working. So that's one less thing you have to worry about, and that's good. Yeah.
I think you should do that. Get on
it. I'll investigate it. And then I was going to say my 40th is coming up, but it's not really. I've still got a couple of years to go. So maybe for my 40th, I go for perhaps one that's of a little bit better condition. Maybe try one out here, see how it goes. And then if I like the idea, then go for a really nice one for my 40th. And that can be the gift.
See, my fantasy is that I get firepower back built, this super smooth playfield, that I throw in the drop target mod, and then I put it up for sale, and somebody is so enamored with the drop target mod and the playfield job, and they could care less what my cabinet looks like, that they're like, you know what? I never liked my Metallica Pro. Here, let's just trade.
Let's just trade, but you're going to give me $3,000 as well.
No, nobody wants a Metallica Pro. They all want the Metallica LE. So but how many firepowers with a drop target mod are out there, right? So I don't know. That's, like I said, that's my fantasy. Because I play out these scenarios all the time in my head, and I was like, for a split second, I'm like, oh, but you wouldn't want a Pro. And then I was like, what the hell are you thinking about? That would be way better than your firepower.
Well, yeah. Well, yes, it would probably.
Because, as somebody that loves ramps and multi-ball, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the drop targets on 8-Ball Deluxe, Metallica Pro would work. So what if it doesn't have spinners? Spinners don't do anything for me.
It would probably fit in okay with your collection.
Yeah,
you'd make it, adjustments for it, and grow to like it.
Maybe I could come down with reality, and maybe I could make that happen with a roller games, because nobody likes roller games either.
No, nobody wants that thing.
Yeah, that's not a classic theme for anybody.
Yeah, I do have to admit though, when seeing firepower in person and seeing the light show that actually happens when you get multi-ball, and the way the back glass displays actually count down, it looks really good for the era. It's like a big production when it happens. It's very cool. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to actually, once you've got it all cleared and working and playing and all that again, and with the drop targets in, you might actually, your opinion of it may actually change. You might go, I don't actually want to get rid of this.
It might, but I doubt it.
Oh, really? Fair enough.
I don't know. Like I said, I have too many other tables that I'm fond of, style of table. Like I said, I love ramps. I love now, yes, firepower does have multi-ball, but that's all it has. I like multiple levels. I like alphanumeric displays rather than just the boring score. I like games that talk more than only being able to say firepower 3, 2, 1. That's. I always say that it's not until you get to something like high speed that that's when I go, okay, now you're talking more my kind of table.
Right.
And high speed by no means is a technological wonder.
But it's sort of a little bit more like
it's closer.
it's closer, yeah.
Yeah. Habit trails. I love habit trails. I want habit trails. I dig that. I dig that look. So that's why I'm surprised at how much I'm enjoying 8-Ball Deluxe, because I didn't think that would be a table that I would really enjoy. Yeah, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really digging just the aiming factor, and that's why I can't wait to get the plastics in so the ball doesn't jump when it comes down to my flipper. And get that thing polished up and playing really nice. I think it's just going to make me like it even more. So
absolutely.
But I never got that sensation off of firepower. So that's why I say it's interesting. I mean, I think for sure you don't know how much you like a table until you start playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing with firepower, I'm getting the opinion that perhaps there might be a ratio between drop targets to ramps. Like, how many drop targets would you need to replace the feel of a ramp in a game? So, would it be 3 drop targets for a ramp, a short ramp, or 5 drop targets for a big ramp?
But see, it's also like, okay, take Firepower 2. It has a ramp. It's not a satisfying
but it's crap.
Ramp. Right, it's not a satisfying ramp. To me, there's a certain satisfaction with certain ramps. Medieval Madness has that complete satisfaction with ramps, especially since you can combo the ramps. I said a couple of weeks ago that Whitewater has one of the most satisfying ramps ever.
That's true. It does.
It's not that it scores a phenomenal amount of points or anything like that. It just looks cool watching the ball do this whoop-de-doo thing. It's one of the reasons why I love roller games, is because it not only has this crazy ramp diverter at the top of the plastic ramp at the top, but then it goes into this cool habit trail that when you collect balls for multi-ball, before the multi-ball goes, just at various points, it fires a plunger and these balls go through the habit trail and then, rotate back down into where they're locked. It just looks awesome. And
that's cool.
That's what I'm into. That's, I think, why I like NBA Fast Break. It's got very satisfying ramps, and it's got this whole cool habit trail mix happening at the top for shooting the basket. There's 4 little habit trail kind of things. So that's visually and feeling wise, that feels good. It's why I like Whirlwind so much, because it's got a great ramp system. And I like, while I enjoy Earthshaker and they kind of have a similar feel, I just like Whirlwind's configuration much better. I think because it's a more open play field. But even Earthshaker has a cool bit of ramp going on,
there's plenty of good things happening on that table as well. But you're right. I think out of the two, Whirlwind's the one that I'd pick as well.
I think that's what everybody would pick.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it's one of those things where I don't think you truly know until you're sitting there playing the machine. I've never been that enamored by Twilight Zone. I get it for rules, it's wonderful, but I don't find the shot selection to be particularly satisfying.
No. No, it's sort of very stop-start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it is those things. I think TPA definitely helps in figuring out what kind of table you like and what kind of table you don't. But I think playing it in person is also just absolutely seals the deal, because it's those tactile sensations that really can put a machine over the top. Again, it's why I say with Metallica, there's something about that table that is just very appealing to me while playing it, that I've not gotten the same sensation off of playing AC/DC.
The thing I like about Metallica now, I've played it, is that I think it's the way the ramps behave. So if you don't shoot the ramps correctly, you're going to come back down. But when you do make the ramp, it doesn't fly up it. It actually gets to the apex of the ramp, and it kind of just goes, okay, I'm just going to walk around this now, rather than running at top speed around the ramp. And it's like, and then it comes back down quite fast at you, but at the same time controllable. So it's sort of like it's a slow ascent and a fast descent. And I think from a feel perspective, that's what you want in a ramp. And you're right, AC/DC, the ramps are such that they're quite shallow in the pitch, and the ball will go up them pretty fast. But AC/DC has got a different feel to it. Not AC/DC, Metallica has a different feel, and I know what you're talking about. Yeah, definitely.
So that's why I say that's the kind of game I ultimately want to have. But I'm more than happy to be surprised by somebody. If there's an EM that actually grabbed me, I would be shocked. It's why I discovered that I don't like Space Invaders, partly because it's the little zipper flipper size flippers and not full size flippers. And it's the double. Yeah, and I hate those flippers.
On the top set. Yeah. Yeah, I must admit the Stellar Wars I played the other day, that was fun. Like, it was a wide body, but it only had 2 flippers, and it was just drop targets all day, and it was fun. I think if it's still there when I go back to the next tournament, I will be playing it, even if it's not in the tournament. I'll just be putting a few games into it because it was fun. Yeah, very fun.
All right, enough fantasizing. Let's just end this thing before I go cry.
Yeah.
All right, gang. We will be showing up again next week. Be sure to follow the Twitter feed at Shut Your Traps, at Jared Morgan, and most importantly, at BlahCade. There you'll see most of the pictures that I'm talking about regarding what I'm doing with Able Deluxe and Firepower. I'm always throwing them up during the week. And take a look, won't you? Feel free to comment. Drop us an email, blahcade@gmail.com. Check out the website, BlahCadePinball.com. And there you will find show notes and other good stuff like links if we list them.
Indeed.
So maybe you can throw up the link to my my Firepower restoration page on Pinside, and people can jump on that.
I'll have to go back through my links. Maybe just email me that.
I can certainly do that. All right, sir.
Yeah.
And everybody else, thank you for listening. We'll talk again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.